Hello, bienvenue, welcome back. Today we are continuing what has been by far one of the most popular series on my YouTube channel. Today we are digging into the ever wonderful and beautiful unicorn that is Kira Yukimura. Kira is a young kitsune just coming into her powers when she starts at Beacon Hills High School. She doesn't actually know why her family picked up and moved across the country. She doesn't know that her mother is a 900-year-old kitsune and that she's returned to rectify a mistake from her past. Actually, Kira doesn't even know that she's a kitsune. You'd have thought that her mother would have gotten around to telling her by now. I mean, wouldn't that have made the whole growing up process a lot easier? Suddenly her mom is just throwing this new fact into her life. There's sudden twist. I mean, finding out that you are a supernatural creature is going to very fundamentally shift how you interact with the world. But this is TV, so where else are you going to get the teenage coming-of-age drama? I loved Kira from the moment that she just stepped out on screen. I mean, it can't be easy being the new student at high school, especially when your dad is the new teacher. But Kira is super sweet, totally awkward, endearingly clumsy, and completely uncertain of pretty much everything. Seriously, I cannot stress how much I absolutely fell in love with her character. I mean, just look at her trying to dance. Arden Cho is actually one of the very few Teen Wolf alums that I follow on social media. The others being Hecklin and Dylan. Well, Hecklin because, Superman, and Dylan because, well, he's fucking hilarious. But when it comes down to it, Teen Wolf really did Kira and Arden dirty. I mean, that's not all that shocking considering the show's history, but this one really takes the cake. What's the most shocking about this is that it comes off as not even that bad. Because Kira actually manages to be one of the few women and people of color that isn't killed off in the show. I mean, I've said it before and I will say it again. Your best bet of surviving Beacon Hills is being a straight white male. I mean, just listen to this list. Laura Hale, Kate Argent, Jessica, Cara, Victoria Argent, Erica Reyes, Heather, Emily, Alicia Boyd, Tara Graham, Dr. Hilliard, Paige, Allison Argent, Callie, Jennifer Blake, Christina Walcott, Carrie Hudson, Violet, Tracy Stewart, Beth, Hayden Romero, Satomi Ito, Deputy Morrow, Tierney, Quinn. Should I go on? That list is a list of the names of the women that we knew that were killed off in the show. I mean, they were important enough to actually have a name. Because let me tell you, when I looked, most of the men that were killed off in the show, they were never named. They weren't important enough to be known. Some of these women were main characters. Some of them had a deep history with the characters, knew them since they were children, or were there to help them with their homework. So at least Kira survived, right? I mean, it's not so bad. She could come back. The truth is, Kira was never actually supposed to be a regular on the show. Her and her family were written into Season 3B to introduce the Japanese and Kitsune mythology. You know, to introduce the reason why one of the white males was being possessed. Seriously, that's it. Don't get me wrong, I love Dylan O'Brien. He did incredible work with what he was given. But Kira was continually kicked out of her own storyline just to make room for this white guy. This white guy that became the central focus of a Japanese story. And then, when she was no longer useful, she was just tossed aside. But here's one thing that the show didn't predict. And that's how incredibly popular Kira became with the fans. I mean, Allison had just died. Scott and Kira had amazing chemistry. And not to mention that Arden was just a delight to work with. So she was written into the show as a regular starting in Season 4, promoted to a main character. But more or less, she was kind of reduced to just being Scott's girlfriend, and somehow secured even less time on screen now that she was a main character than the previous season with her as a reoccurring character. Because for some reason, she can't exist outside of Scott. She isn't her own person. She doesn't have her own life, her own wants, her own goals. She didn't even get her own storyline. When it comes down to it, they didn't really flesh out her character enough beyond what she could do for Scott. But really, when you look at it, that's kind of all of the female characters in the show. It's all about their relationship and what they can do for the men in their lives. So Allison, Kira, Melissa, all for Scott, Hayden for Liam, Tracy for Theo. And I mean, pretty much every other man on the show for Lydia. Jackson, Styles, Parrish, Peter. I mean, some of the villains. You know, Arden being cast as Kira, a role specifically created for an Asian American actor, was huge. Asian American characters are extremely limited, and representation on screen is some of the worst. Never mind that Hollywood is constantly recasting Asian characters with white actors. But they're also often stuck in these same stereotypes and tropes. The nerdy student, the kung fu whiz, the computer geek, or that kid that's under extreme pressure to become a doctor or a lawyer. You know, the classic parental stress. It's actually great that we got Asian representation in this show. It's not something that we get to see enough in TV and movies. And when we do, it's usually in the most stereotypical way possible. And this is only slightly better. She was still playing that social rebellion Asian aesthetic character. The only thing that she was missing was, you know, the colored streak in her hair to show it, but they had the wardrobe down. What I'm saying is her character was tokenizing. They'd already killed off the people of color and they needed a replacement. By season 5, she had less and less screen time. She was appearing in fewer and fewer episodes. Actually, Kira was completely cut from episode 518, and Arden didn't even know it. She learned that she had been cut from fans on Twitter. The studio and the writers and the producers just had so little respect for her. She gave 3 years of her life to the show, turned down countless projects that would have boosted her career just to play Kira. And let's not forget that Dylan filmed at least 3 movies during Teen Wolf, and they always worked around his schedule. Kira's storyline was in no way complete, but they claimed that they just didn't know what to do with her. They didn't know how to write her into the story anymore. And that is a bald-faced lie. She had so much more growth to go. Especially with that craptastic storyline that they had inserted in of her losing control of her powers. And yet we never got to see her journey. Not to mention that she was the one that told Lydia about the Huntsman. And somehow she's not involved in that villain of season 6? I mean, it's because of her father that we even learned of them in the first place. Instead, she was just yeeted out of existence and then never talked about again. The show was so desperate to unload her that they just abandoned her in the desert. Tyler Posey literally referred to Kira as a good distraction. Which is ridiculous. It undermines their entire relationship. I find it fascinating that both Tyler and Jeff Davis said that Scott didn't need a girlfriend to be interesting, and that Kira's rise in power was becoming a problem for Scott, that he was relying on her too much. So a woman cannot be stronger than a man. A woman is good for nothing more than being the girlfriend. A man can't rely on his female partner. A woman can't be powerful. This legitimately upsets me. When they decided to cut Kira out of the show, they wanted to show that Scott was this super interesting character that didn't need romance to make him interesting. But I guess they realized their mistake pretty quick after that, because he was immediately thrown back into another relationship. Women in general were just treated so poorly by the show, and it makes me so incredibly angry. Especially for the finale, when so many characters were brought back. Wouldn't it have been amazing to see Kira in control and there to save the day? But she wasn't even given the chance. Instead, a bunch of white boys were brought back. I'm pretty sure that Arden wasn't even told that her character wouldn't be returning for the final season. Actually, I'm pretty sure that she learned that information on Twitter again. Just the level of disrespect. So yeah, Arden Cho deserved better. Kira Yukimura deserved better.
Hi, I'm Kira. You knew that. I knew you knew that. I don't know why I just told you that again. Anyway, I have something for you.
For me?
Yeah,